Hello, algebra students. This is going to be a quick little video. Basically, I'm going to go over one question from your homework for every section. And so this is number 12 on the first page. This is the last question of the first page, and it says to solve this question. So remember the zero product property. And remember, this is like really critical. I know I've talked about this a lot. When you have two things, and their product is 0, they equal 0, then either this must be 0 or this must be 0. So if it's set equal to 0, like it is, find out what makes this one 0, and find out what makes this one 0, and those are going to be your answers. And so just set them equal to 0 and solve them, and that's all you're going to have to do here. Subtract 5, you have 4x is equal to negative 5. Divide by 4, you get x is equal to negative 5 fourths. The idea being, when you plug in negative 5 fourths into this x, you're going to get, and then you add 5 to it, you're going to get 0. And 0 times whatever this is going to be 0. Do the same thing here, add 5 to both sides, so x is equal to positive 5 fourths, and that would be the answer that parentheses would give you. So both of them answer the question. So that's the type of questions that you're dealing with in the first section. In the second section, it says to factor out the GCF, the greatest common factor. And so the greatest common factor between 6 and 14 is 2. The factors of 6, of course, are 1, 2, 3, and 6. And 14 would be 1, 2, 7, and 14. So the greatest number that they both have as factors would be 2. And then also, this one has 3 W's, WWW, and this one has 2 W's, WW. And so in common, they have 2 W's. That's going to be your greatest common factor. The directions said, though, to factor it out, which means undo the distributive property. Write that number out front. So what you're asking yourself is 2w squared times what would give you 6w to the third. So that would be 3, because 2 times 3 is 6. And w squared times what would give you w to the third? Just 1w. Would be the number of w's you need. W squared times w is w to the third. 2 times what is negative 14? That would be negative 7. We already have taken out all of the w's, right? We took out 2 out front. We don't have any left then, so this would be how you would factor out the GCF like number 21. This type of question is a solve question because it's set equal to 0, and it's going to use the ideas from both of the last two sections. Your first step is going to be to factor out the GCF, and the GCF in this problem is 9p. Once you factor that out, 9p times what is 9p squared? Just be 1p or p. And 9p times what is 18p? That would be plus 2. And that's set equal to 0. This still is going to use the zero product property. Remember, the zero product property says if you have something and you multiply it by something else, so this is going to be the first thing, and this is going to be the second thing, and they equal 0, then either A must be 0 or B must be 0. So what would you plug into this P to make this expression 0? If you plug in 0, 9 times 0 is 0, and that would be the answer for this, the A term, right, this part. And then what would you plug into this one to make that one 0? That would be negative 2, because negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Those would be your answers. So that is the first page of homework. The second page of homework says to factor expressions like this. This is the last one of the first section. Remember, when we're factoring with 3 terms like this, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the last term and list the factors of the last term. Factors are 1 and 40, 2 and 20. 3 does not factor, but 4 and 10 does, and 5 and 8 does. Then you're going to look at which of these factor pairs could get you to the middle term. The middle term is negative 14. The only one of these factor pairs that can get you to negative 14 is negative 4 and negative 10. Right? Those would now add to negative 14, and those also multiply to 40. So z minus 4 and z minus 10 is how you factor that, right? It's always whatever the variable is first, and then the 2 factors that multiply to 40 and add to negative 14 would go here and here. We have one more section of questions. This is the last one of the worksheet. Same exact idea. at least to start, you're going to factor this. And when you factor this, you're going to list the factors of now 30. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. Which of these factor pairs would add to our middle term? And our middle term is now -1. Right? If there's no number there, it would be -1. So which of these factor pairs could get you to -1? Only 5 and 6. 1 and 30 can only get you to 29 and 31 in the negatives of those. 2 and 15 can only get you to 13 and 17 in the negatives of those. 3 and 10 can only get you to 7 or 13 in the negatives of those. And 5 and 6 could get you to 1 or 11 in the negatives of those. If it was -6 and +5, it would add to -1. So you'd have z plus 5 and z minus 6 equals 0. Now once again, use the zero product property. If you have a times b and it equals 0, then either this must be 0, -5, that would make this 0, or this one must be 0, and that would be 6. So -5 and 6 are your answers. Really easy to plug them in, check them, make sure they work. Please let me know if you guys have any questions.